Listen. So these two duking it out for people's favorite Elvis has to be the best verses since Twilight, but you just know that Stitch still has it in the bag. Now, this movie's been considered by everyone who worked on it to be full of awkwardness because it's about an age gap bigger than YouTube Kids viewers and YouTube Kids content creators. It's about Priscilla's side of the story of being Mrs. Presley, told by Sofia Coppola, who kind of knows a thing or two about being in a big American family that's always in the media. And it just proves that even when you're dead, your exes are never going to forget a thing. Let me explain.
And do we have here? Elvis, this is Priscilla Brilliant.
So the movie gets into the spark notes of Priscilla's book, Elvis and Me, and it starts in Germany when Elvis was deployed because he was wiggling too much back in the States, and it's at a diner where a general scopes her out in order to invite her to Presley's bunker. And I mean scoped out because they kind of tell it like it's a game of telephone where Elvis would have other people keep an eye on who he wanted to invite back, and they would be his wingmen who would like summon them back to his place.
Hi, what's your name?
Priscilla Brilliant.
You like Elvis Presley?
Even overseas, you see that people were still waiting outside of his place, and when he plays the piano inside, everyone just melts. And I don't know if it was because he was playing Elvis or because all these actors were just in the same room as Jacob Elordi. Because when you really look at it, if Austin got the creative side of it down in his movie and how he felt trapped as an artist, Jacob's got that swagger down and how he was trapping others.
I think it was, I listened to a lot of Eminem, like a terrible amount of Eminem.
So you sound like a tough American when you talk.
It was like Detroit. Okay. It was.
Okay.
The creepy part is that their gap's bigger than the one downtown. Like, this man would literally refer to her as "you're just a baby" since he was 24 and she was 14. She told him that she was in 9th grade, but being in Germany, all this man heard was 9 and still went for it. And besides being taller than like 2 Cailee Spaenys, it didn't help that they were dressing her up not to look like a child, but the doll that a child would play with.
I'm also not helping him out much. I think I'm probably the shortest actor you could have found.
Talk about jailbait rock. Since he can't help falling in love with a freshman, they end up going on multiple dates with them kissing by the second.
What about you? You got a favorite song?
Heartbreak Hotel.
Embarrassing!
She ends up always being on the phone for him since he's definitely 18 or older to call, and she waits for every ring, especially after he loses his mama. But it's crazy to think that her military parents, the ones who have all these rules, would just throw them away the moment that they met this man. Like, Elvis even hit them with the...
She's much more mature than her age.
Now, they said that Priscilla never really came on set, but was still giving some personal stories that weren't in the book to Sofia Coppola, with one of them being the movie dates that they would go on, where they showed how this man really wanted to be like Brando and Bogart when it came to acting. And they would be watching a movie titled Beat the Devil. But having gone through the book, I really do think they should have kept a lot of the other moments, like one where he pretends to be sick when they're overseas because he fakes this fever since he knows that everyone around him only worries about his voice. So he does this prank that they end up keeping as their little secret.
Promise me you'll stay the way you are now.
Instead, they really just focus on the pills that she was given in order to stay awake after all of the parties, leaving her dazed in school like she's daydreaming on Elvis Street. And just to remind you how young she is, they really had her sitting there in class learning about the food groups like dairy, breads, and meats, but she was only thinking about his.
What about boys at school? Must be some handsome ones.
Eventually, their Germany fling ends with him leaving her at the airport, where she just gets swallowed up by the crowd, and she ends up looking like just another fan. And the movie's full of a lot of these really good shots, with them even saying that they were inspired by paintings and even scenes from the classic In the Mood for Love. And even with the low budget that they had, I thought they did a great job recreating the albums and the posters, the magazines, her Sweet 16 card.
You're the only girl I ever loved.
After getting interviewed by the press, which the movie chose to not include, she gets invited to Memphis, where they show Papa Presley having to sign a temporary guardianship in order to have her over, meaning that she's not just a minor, but his little stepsister?
Temporarily.
They then play around with the idea that these two never did the hanky-panky, because every time she was up in his room, they were leaving space for Jesus. Supposedly, reportedly, allegedly, all they would do is snuggle up and talk.
Even though I was 14, I was actually a little bit older in life, not in numbers. And that was the attraction. And, people think, oh, it was sex, it was this. Not at all. I never had sex with him.
So the only thing she was swallowing was more pills, with him even giving her one that knocks her out for 2 complete days and then wakes up with no bedhead? This girl really woke up looking like Sleeping Beauty. Eventually, he convinces her and her parents to take Priscilla to Vegas, even though she's not of age to gamble. But why would that be the line that they don't cross? So she takes a couple more pills and plays 21 before turning 21.
21!
22. That's 22.
Soon enough, Priscilla gets the biggest upgrade and gets the chance to move to Graceland, where she's also going to go to college. high school, still high school. Because she's Vernon Presley's daughter by law, he's the one dropping her off at school and telling her the rules of what she can or cannot do if she plans to be his daughter-in-law. Even in class, the nun is talking about friendships and influence, and you see everyone in the hallways just know that she's connected to Elvis, and that's bringing admiration, but also like a lot of pettiness. But it's super awkward seeing her get out of class, and then her after-school activity is making this man breakfast in bed because he's sleeping till the afternoon. They even mention how this man would eat a pound of bacon with 3 eggs daily. And that was all the porking he was doing.
That's all, folks.
We also shot it out of order. I'd be pregnant in the morning, and then after lunch I'd be 14 years old. So it was really, I had to...
Since she's living that college life like it's senior year, she's obviously going to start failing classes, and that's when Priscilla gets slick and starts cheating by offering some of her classmates some meet and greets in order to be able to graduate. And she eventually does. And even though they said that Elvis didn't go to the graduation in order to not take away from the seniors, they show him appear in the parking lot, and that uptight nun sees him and just baptizes herself.
Like here, the more I make up, will make your eyes stand out more.
The movie then focuses a lot on the fashion that I think they got down, but we're in that era where Valentino and Chanel, a lot of these fashion brands are damn near producers on movies. Like, you even saw that in the Pedro short where they literally were the EPs.
You spent a lot of time.
Sometimes I felt like we were in the makeup chair more than we were doing the scene.
But they killed it with the outfits. It's just a little bit of a weird compliment because the movie is also judging that she was being judged for her style. So while they are beautiful gowns, the script is kind of treating them like they're her chains. Elvis says that she can't wear brown or pink because he wants her in blue and that's what suits her best. He starts making her dye her hair black. He's painting her eyes with all this makeup. And then she pretty much just becomes a side piece when he's taking all these photo shoots. Which, interestingly enough, Elordi previously reenacted with Kaya, the Gerber baby, when they were dating, and now she's reenacting things with Austin Butler, who she's currently dating, so Stitch, you're next. Even though she has every outfit she's allowed to imagine, she's told that she can't play in the front yard or get a job. She can't even leave the phone in case he calls. So honestly, you're looking at a person who left her parents because they always told her no, and now she's living in a place where she gets hit with nevers.
You can't be out here making a public display of yourself.
I didn't think it...
Well, you had better start thinking.
When he does come home, they're pretty much just on lockdown in the bedroom and never come out. He gets her a gun since supposedly he always had the safety on his, a new car since he wouldn't give her a ride, and she even mentions that they called it the long wait because Elvis wanted her to stay untouched, so they would just cosplay outfits in the bedroom till he felt the moment was right. And now I get why there were some theories out there.
Lord have mercy.
One of the biggest parts of Elvis would have been his boys, who were everywhere with him. Like, they were always packing for him, and they pretty much got nicknamed the Memphis Mafia, and the movie really makes them look goofy. Because every time Elvis is about to leave, you see the group of wives for them get bigger and bigger every time they say goodbye. But every time he's about to head out, he's huddled with his boys, catching up with them, as if they're not gonna get on the bus with him.
Hey, you driving?
Yeah, man, of course. On the damn bus.
These guys supposedly weren't allowed to sleep unless Elvis was sleeping. They were pretty much his bodyguards and his assistants, his crew, like everything that he needed. And they were always dripped out like they were about to hit the bowling tournament at 3 p.m. And what was interesting was learning that Priscilla is actually the one who designed that iconic logo that they would end up wearing their entire life.
He always had a class, the TCB. I actually designed the TCB necklace. We were on a plane going to Memphis one day, and as we're flying, it started to rain. And as it rained, a lightning bolt came across the sky. And I looked at it, and I drew a lightning bolt. And then I put the TCB right on it. And then I said to him, "Is this what you mean?" And he looked at it, and he said, "Oh my God, this is it. This is what I want." And the rest is history. Who knew that it would be as big as it is? I mean, truly. And I'd be darned I don't have a patent on it.
What was weird is that in her own movie, they never really show her connecting with any of their wives who would have also been left behind at Graceland when they were touring. So I'm not really sure what that says about the dynamic. But it was weird hearing that the whole group went with them on their honeymoon. And there's clearly a lot more beef there when you start hearing the boys retell it, the people who were closest to Elvis when they made their doc.
The wedding caused arguments between Elvis and several of the Memphis Mafia, who were not invited to the ceremony. Some of them even claimed he didn't want to marry her, but was forced to by Priscilla, or she would tell people about the fact they dated when she was underage.
Priscilla had just turned 16, or somewhere, because she had still to go to school. That really is probably where it all came about, that he had to, because he didn't want to marry her. He just didn't want to be married.
The moment Elvis leaves for Hollywood, and really every time he leaves, you see Priscilla have to go through all the gossip. She knows how crazy the fan mail gets and all the newspapers. It doesn't even help that she's finding more letters in his jacket than Desi Arnaz. So now she's worried about all these girls, which leads to her suspicious mind wavering all over the place. You end up seeing moments where she's going through his closet, and you know she's just imagining the thought of every woman who was touching him at that time. When they go to the movies and he's reciting all these lines, she's wondering what date he took the first time around to memorize them.
I need a woman who understands that things like this might happen. Are you gonna be here or not?
He'll then play these mind games with her because he'll pitch that they should split and wants to send her home, only to make her cry so that she can be belittled and beg to stay. Like, this man just wants control and is more toxic than he was in Euphoria.
Was there something you're hiding?
I don't have a goddamn thing to hide. You're just being too goddamn aggressive in the manner.
You then follow all of his mood swings where they'll be doing some pillow talk, which then turns into a pillow fight where he's really socking and bopping her because she was playing too rough. He then gets upset with work because they're only putting him in musicals. For his next album, he can't find other artists to bum off, and after asking Priscilla her opinion on the songs that they were listening to, he straight up throws a chair at her and blames it on his mama's temper.
Okay, I'm sorry, baby. I got my mama's temper.
I'm okay.
You okay?
So while he does come off like a devil in disguise, there is a lot that's cut from the book that doesn't justify his tantrums in any way, but puts you into the mind of why Priscilla and the Memphis boys stayed and all the outbursts he was having. It was a moment early on when an employee assaults Priscilla, and they deal with that man to the point that he's never seen again. They talk about how he threw a baseball at his grandma, and that's why he calls her Dodger, that they wouldn't laugh anytime he woke up or entered a room because they needed to see what mood Elvis was in, and then depending on where he was going, they would have to move like water around him. Like, this man was so overbearing that even when he visited the president, the Secret Service briefed him and his boys briefed them.
Mr. Presley will enter. If he leaves his sunglasses on, then Nixon should wait until Mr. Presley speaks.
If anything, I wish the movie did show more of Priscilla in the moments when he was away that the book does kind of cover, but here it's like she only exists within his framing, which does Priscilla, and that's kind of the point.
I don't know if I like it.
What do you mean you don't know if you like it?
Another thing the movie shows is how Elvis would faith hop. This man was having Bible studies about the woman at the well, leaving his woman to not feel well when he was clearly thirsting over these disciples. He then gets led by a guru who had him reading up on all these righteous philosophies and taking a little LSD. Meanwhile, all Priscilla wants is a little less conversation because there's something that's always on her mind. And it's surprising to think that for a movie that had people really worried about all the minor sex scenes, there really was minor sex scenes.
It's a long story.
Eventually, they have him burn the books because it was affecting the business side of Elvis, and they even take the time for a scene where he calls out the Beatles since they've always gone head-to-head now and then.
Yes, sir, and I find it downright anti-American. Just like the Beatles.
Eventually, he proposes at Christmas, and they get married, with Priscilla immediately getting pregnant. And it gives us one of the most iconic lines from Elordi, where he realizes that he's gonna be a dad. And then he just leaves her tour. But there is one scene where he tries to pull that bit of them splitting up and asking for time apart while this child's with child. And Priscilla actually agrees, which kind of scares him, because you realize that he's one of those dudes who just wants to fight just to fight. And that's why he's changing his mind all of the time. One minute he's ready to return to sender, the next everything's all right. So by the time she gives birth and she's putting eyelashes on before going to the hospital, you realize this woman's so traumatized that all of this clothes and makeup is really just a security blanket. In the third act, you see them cover Elvis getting his Vegas residency, and it's insane to think that that's the first time Priscilla gets to see him perform in front of an audience.
He's not like you imagine.
By that point, though, they're long gone. He leaves her "will miss yous" hanging as he hops on the bus ready to leave, and they don't even have sex because he still sees her as his baby, even though they have a baby. And they do a great job at showing Priscilla take back parts of herself slowly by turning her hair brown again or wearing more pink when Elvis is away. And she realizes that the only reason they stayed married was because of what she's willing to go through, even calling herself in the book the child woman by his side. In the end, she's not wearing golden brown dresses in front of him as they show him taking every pill under the sun and forcing himself on her, leading Priscilla to finally break away and leave Graceland and his good graces.
I want a life of my own.
Priscilla herself does the audiobook, and I think she does a really great job with it, especially with all of her emphasis, but she ends the book by saying that she wanted to give the good and the bad, the worries that she may have left out too much, and I think the movie, in trying to be tight, also does that. It just brushes the affair that she had with Mike, the karate instructor, and even another that came time before, which I think should be covered if you want to get the full picture of Priscilla in a movie called Priscilla. Like, this is a girl who, when she was sneaking into his room early on and they told her to be quiet, she would make sure that everyone, especially the girls, heard her say goodnight so they know she was going upstairs with Elvis. Plus, there's a lot of personal stuff, like the fact that she had siblings we never really see, but I guess she never does either. Or the family secret of her father having died in the war and not knowing that her stepdad had adopted her that whole time.
Daddy's not my real father, is he? Priscilla. I knew I didn't belong! Please let me explain. Please, listen.
On top of that, Priscilla really breaks down in the book that a big decision for the split was when she noticed she wasn't spending enough time with her daughter and she was splitting her focus. And I think that would have been a good thing to cover in the movie, and how having to grow up so fast in your own youth affects how you end up raising your own kids, especially when you're still part of such a big family that's always in the spotlight. But we've kind of seen some behind the scenes there.
Make vodka sauce pasta with me because I'm grounded. Because I tried to charter a helicopter from New York to Maryland on my dad's credit card because I wanted to have dinner with my girlfriend. Also, I thought I would do this since I'm already grounded because my parents' biggest rule is I'm not allowed to have any public social media accounts. Here's why. This is Ari, my babysitter's boyfriend, because my parents are never home, so these are my replacement parents.
It was really important to me to show the story through Priscilla's experiences.
Overall, it's a good movie about a guy who was so big that everyone would just go head over heels for him, from the military to the nuns and even his own people. So it really is a story of the one girl who said no to him. It just took her that long to get over his spell. A movie that has him always saying goodbye to her until she gets the courage to finally say goodbye to him.